I'll go ahead and get us started then, just so we can go ahead and get it moving. And anybody else that wants to join can. Thank you all for coming to the meeting. We truly appreciate it. Uh, as you know, I think everybody is quite aware of why this committee came about due to the name of the Pinckney neighborhood. And basically, we formed this committee at a association meeting to go ahead and have a little bit of structure to go ahead and revisit to see if to see if the neighborhood wanted to revisit the name through the deliberate process. So just a brief outline, we came together to form the committee, and then our task there was to go ahead and one, research the Pinckney name, find out where it came from as much as we can, and then two, figure out how the neighborhood felt about the Pinckney name. Did they want to keep it? Did they want to change it? Did they want to do something in between? So hopefully with what we have here today, we'll be able to go ahead and at least give you a little bit of background history on it, the responses we've gotten so far, and to give everybody an opportunity to go ahead and comment on it and let us know how they feel about the Pinckney name. So I would also like to go over briefly, just let everybody know about the members of the committee. The committee members themselves are all residents of Pinckney. So we wanted to definitely make sure that that was an important part of it, but that there would be people that had vested interest in it. First, I was going to go ahead and introduce everyone. So the members of the committee per se are myself, Eleanor Gardner, Lynette Littlejohn, Jen Unikas, David Unikas, Glenn Walker, Kristen Walker, Marianne Tyndall, Tara Winger, Kim Murphy, Melinda Levon, Levon, Kendall Simmons, Miguel Uchofin, and Zach Fox. So, and as I said, we're all I believe all of us are residents of the Pinckney neighborhood. So like I said before, we do have vested interest in this. I would also like to thank everyone for participating, all of the Pinckney name committee members for participating in this and contributing to this. It really helped us out, and I think it made it a really collaborative process. So to go ahead and get us going again, now I'd like to go into the background of Pinckney, and one of our committee members, David Unikas, has really devoted a lot of time to it. So if possible, I'd like to go ahead and give him the floor to have him give us a little bit of background on Pinckney.
I'll just try and be quick about this. Just to, the town itself was founded kind of by a company, actually, the Massachusetts Immigrant Aid Company, and which became the New England Immigrant Aid Company. And as such, they were kind of responsible for the elements of, laying out the town, kind of creating these maps. One member, the secretary of the company, Thomas Webb, had expressed in a letter that was published in January of 1855 in the Herald of Freedom paper here in Lawrence, that the naming of the streets devolved to him, and that he would give his reasons for why. I've not been able to track down the specific reasons, but on the original map, what is now 6th Street was written as Pinckney, Pinkney, no C. And by the early 1870s, in every local map and in newspaper listings of addresses for commercial purposes, it had a C in it. So the big question is, was it a mistake? Was it intentional? Through research, it turned out there was a man without a C who had been a part of the abolitionist world, at least his speech that he made that was sort of famous for its very, very passionate laying out of anti-slavery on no uncertain terms of it just simply being just a wrong, not a complicated, like, well, if we do this and do that, it could be, it might be. It was just simply, we shouldn't be owning people. Essentially, it was sort of a refreshing argument, and was used quite frequently by abolitionists at the time. There are several mentions of it in the congressional record when slavery issues had come up. Members read pieces of that speech on the floor of Congress, even in the mid 1850s. So I've also come across a couple of individual letters written by Thomas Webb to the company's agent in the Kansas Territory at the time, and they would discuss pieces of property that the company owned in Lawrence, including things that were on Pinckney Street. And in each one of those instances, Thomas Webb writes Pinckney in these letters, Pinkney. So there's no C in his, so again, as the person who himself claimed to have named the streets and then, is referencing those same, properties on Pinckney Street, he doesn't use a C. I think it's pretty clear that it was never intended to be named for Charles Cotesworth Pinckney, at least, and much more likely William Pinckney. At the same time, just in general with the naming of the streets, it's really, as you start to look into all the original names, they are kind of odd, and it is kind of interesting. I still would love to find out honestly, the reasons he chose these particular names. They are not the who's who of anti-slavery and abolitionist movement at the time. They're kind of maybe more of a B list in some ways, or a little more obscure. A lot of Massachusetts people dominate the list, but still need to kind of dig into that a little bit more. But I think at the core, the town was founded on abolitionist principles. It literally was founded by several hundred people traveling from New England. And so they would know who William Pinckney was at the time, but within a decade or so of the town's founding, the population of those original settlers has dwindled. There's thousands and thousands more people who've come from regional, states nearby and places nearby who would not have necessarily known who William Pinckney was. But I think that in an era when, if you had a rudimentary education, you would know that Charles Cotesworth Pinckney, at least if you, like I said, had a rudimentary education, was a Civil War general and, signer of the Constitution. He was also the author of the Fugitive Slave Clause, which is another reason why it's, super unlikely that he was, the namesake for the street. And so I think that over time, like I said, as you can see in the local papers, the listing by the mid 1860s was quickly slipping. Pinckney without a C was disappearing. Pinckney with a C was dominating. And I think that any resident at the time in a city that would not have had marked streets, and you were saying Pinckney, like I said, I think that it just sort of became sort of a slip that, like, they just assumed the reference was to the American Revolutionary War hero, as opposed to, someone who was, while important in abolitionist circles, didn't really ring a bell in broader history. So that's kind of what I found in digging into some original documents and things about the town founding.
Okay, sorry about that. I think it kicked me out for a second. Did you have anything else to add, David?
No, I don't want to take up the whole meeting. I can go on for hours about weird little cul-de-sacs of history that I found with this thing.
Okay. Not a problem. I just wanted to make sure because I just popped back in. So yeah. Cool. Well, thank you, David. And also, if you wanted to know any more information in depth, all that information is on the website under the Pinckney name section. You should be able to find that, as well as just information about our meetings in general, and kind of the progress that we've made on this process. So thank you again, David, for that background on the Pinckney name.
Sure.
To go ahead and move us on, I think next is I think Eleanor will be giving us some sort of visual representation of our responses so far. that people who have sent in regarding the Pinckney name. So Eleanor, if you would.
Can everybody see my screen? I'm trying to share a graph of the responses that we've received thus far. And before I look at that, I want to note that in the chat, I have shared a link to the web page on the Pinckney website that documents everything that the committee has done, and it has links out to all of the historical research that we've done and that David obviously has done in great detail. So looking at the responses, what I was able to do is we requested people to provide their responses by email. They could call me, they could make statements within the Pinckney Facebook group, or they could mail their responses to our PO box. And we also just yesterday created a Survey Monkey survey, and we've received 5 responses to that thus far. So incorporating all of that together, we have 47 responses, 35 of which are in favor of changing the neighborhood's name, 7 of which are not in favor of changing the neighborhood's name, and then 5 said that they weren't really sure or that they did not care. They didn't have an opinion. So that's sort of where things lie for the responses that we have received thus far. And if we receive others through about the next week, then that can be added into our data.
Cool. Did anybody have any questions about our process or anything regarding us sending it out? Okay. Alrighty. If not, then I would like to go ahead and just move on to the next section, which is we'll just go ahead and open it up to just public comment or any sort of discussion regarding the Pinckney name. And the thing is, we just ask that you limit your comment to 3 minutes per person. And also, if you would, please state if you've already sent in a response and what that's, what your response for the name change was. So, and it just, like you said, you have 3 minutes to go ahead and talk about it, to talk about how you feel about it. And if you would, just jump on in.
I'll just go ahead and jump in real quick. Due to the fact that David has done so much research on it, I kind of feel like I should say that we're a little bit unsure as to sort of what should happen, aside from feeling like the spelling with the C is incredibly wrong. That's just about, I think, sort of the extent of,
yeah,
in a way.
Yeah, if we kind of share up try and do our dual thing here in 3 minutes.
Right.
Broadly speaking, for me, I'm perfectly fine with the name, being changed. I don't necessarily think we have to be necessarily lockstep with the school. I feel like ultimately the school may select someone who has an educational connection both to Pinckney and the neighborhood and things like that, but maybe isn't necessarily somebody who lives here. So I know there's been suggestions about sort of a directional name, or something else of that nature, or other families that have lived in the neighborhood a long time. Broadly speaking, I just, like Jen, don't think that Pinckney with a C is what it should be. But I will, the one small arrow in the direction of just sticking with Pinckney but without a C is merely that I think that if you look at sort of the, again, the intention of the town when it was founded, and you look at what's left in this town from, aspects and elements of that, the other neighborhoods in town are kind of directionally named: Old West Lawrence, East Lawrence, that sort of thing. And other places, then start to get named by whatever the developer, Hillside or, Sunset or whatever the developer at the time in the 30s or something chose for it. So at least if we stuck with Pinckney without a C, it would still be a nod to some level of sort of the original intent of the people founding the town. But,
and also his speeches are like so incredibly difficult to decipher. If you've read his speech on the Missouri Compromise, I tried to get through it today, and it is like mind-numbing. it's so of that time that it's hard to figure out exactly like what exactly he is even saying in general.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
I think there are a lot of things to kind of take into account as far as who he even was, really.
And his speech his anti-slavery speech that he delivered in the late 1700s, I was able to get a copy of it and was able to kind of digitally get it put so it can be read as opposed to just screenshots of something, and cleaned it up. I can provide a link to that later as well, because that one's actually hard to find on the internet.
Yeah, I was going to say I couldn't find it, and David was working, so I couldn't really bother him. But I would love to read it, because I know that I've seen parts of it, and parts of it were really inspiring.
Yeah,
So
it's better than his Missouri Compromise speech. Let's just say.
Yeah, I'd love to actually see it.
So anyway,
that's it.
Yeah, no, oh, thanks guys. We totally appreciate that. And yeah, if you could send that information our way, that'd be great. I mean, for the next step of the process, if we choose to move forward to the next step, just to let everybody know, this is kind of the discovery process where we're just making sure that gathering information on how people feel about the name. Now, if people want to galvanize to, change the name, then that's a whole nother process of figuring out what the name should be. So we can definitely use that information for that process, just in case people would, want to just, retain most parts of the Pinckney name and just get rid of the C, so they would know a little bit more about William Pinckney and what he stood for. So I think that would definitely help. Thanks for doing that research, David. But yeah, just to continue the trend, I will go ahead and use a little bit of the time as speaking as myself, not as the president of the Pinckney Neighborhood Association, to kind of follow up with what David and Jen said. I agree that I think the name should change. I don't know if it accurately reflects the way how we feel about this neighborhood now and what we want it to stand for. So I'm not necessarily sure I have no opinion on what it should change to, but I think that at one time it was Pinckney without a C, and then somehow or another in the early 1900s, it got changed to Pinckney with a C. So, but if it went back to that previous spelling of Pinckney, that would be fine. Or if it went to something else, it would be fine. So that's just my 2 cents. Anybody else?
Yeah, Ernest Richardson. We live on 200 Block, Arkansas, and we've been here for not quite 50 years. And my father was born in a house at 3rd in Michigan, or 4th in Michigan, I'm sorry. So we've been involved in the neighborhood for a long time, and I'd be fine with just dropping the C, but I really don't think I would not appreciate it going to something completely else, because our son went to Pinckney, and I'm all for just dropping the C. Thank you.
Can I ask, did you already submit that response, or is this the first time that you've communicated that to us?
I didn't even know that there was a survey out.
Oh, okay, good. I just wanted to make sure that I was recording any new statements, so thank you.
Howdy did to Paul Jefferson, and I like the idea of dropping the C in Pinckney.
Paul, did you have a chance to already send in your response?
No, I didn't.
Well, thank you, Paul and Ernest, for that information, those comments. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Kent Williams, 447 Ohio. And can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thanks. I did not already respond, so my response to the name change would be yes. I agree with what I've heard stated regarding dropping the C for clarification and accuracy, historical accuracy. And I haven't really thought about changes beyond that simple one, but I find that certainly exploring that has merit. But I also see a great deal of value in correcting the name by simply adjusting the spelling. Thank you.
Thank you, Kent.
Good evening. This is in Jerry at 5th in Florida, and I have not responded prior to this. I would agree to the name change, and based on what I have heard this evening and gotten a better understanding about the historical context, I would agree to correcting the name and the change and dropping the C and letting history be corrected and letting it be known that it's William instead of Charles, and leaving it with Pinckney. So thank you.
Thank you, Najeri.
Can I ask a clarifying question about the association between Charles Cotesworth and the neighborhood? Do we have, like, I know that there are several signs around the neighborhood that give, you know, little historical tidbits about different places. Is Charles Cotesworth Pinckney's name on any of that signage? Like, are we going to have to, like, is this going to be something where we're going to have to go through and change all of those signs and spend money to do that? Or
A question for David. Would you happen to know if anywhere other than this neighborhood, Charles Cotesworth Pinckney is perhaps mentioned? Or
No, I mean, right now, from my knowledge of any markers in the area, like there's the one for the Hermit, and beyond just having a Pinckney neighborhood sort of logo kind of, or, you know, spellings of that, that's the only specific marker that I'm aware of. And then of course the school, but the school, you know, again, the school is a separate issue, and the school district will make that decision through its own process. Obviously, I'm sure they'll want to, you know what we're doing, or you know, some level across, but I don't really know specifically of historical markers beyond that Hermit marker in the neighborhood proper that you know, would have to have some sort of change. But he himself, he's not mentioned in any sort of neighborhood stuff. I know the school has some you know, displays that discuss, you know, the history of the school and have some mention of them, but nothing that's neighborhood only.
okay, so the one that's over by the river trail, like the one that talks about the Pinckney neighborhood, that one doesn't specifically mention Charles Cotesworth.
Is that
That's
one
what
still?
Because I think it might. I can't remember.
Yeah. I thought for some reason, I thought that there was a larger one that had for some reason been removed already for other reasons, but I haven't seen. I'd have to go back and look at the one by the river trail that talks about it.
so
Okay.
you're talking about the one in Constant Park, right?
It's the one that's, yeah, like right by, I guess that's Tennessee, as you're going over to the river. Yeah.
That's
The
the one
reason-
that as well.
The reason that I'm asking is that I feel like if we are going to have to go to the trouble to change all of these signs and spend all of this money. Like, I personally would rather see us, if we're going to have to change and rebrand anyway, I would rather see us celebrate a person of color in our neighborhood, because I don't know that any of our neighborhoods are named after a person of color. And so I think that if we're going to do this anyway, it would be a good opportunity for us to elevate someone from our neighborhood and from our town, you know, who is kind of the opposite of a Charles Coatsworth Pinckney, you know, an exceptional person of color that we can celebrate instead of a dead old white slave owner. So that's kind of my feeling on the situation, but I'm definitely pro changing the name either way.
Good,
And-
good deal.
Sorry, Christina, can I
No,
ask
go
just, did you submit that response previously, or was this the first time?
I submitted the survey, so.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. And also, David brought up another good point. This process is entirely independent from the school's process. The school will go through their own process of figuring out if they want to go ahead and change the name of the elementary school. Even though I really suspect that our neighborhood name was due, in fact, because the elementary school had its name. But we've gone ahead and checked with the city and confirmed that we are in control of the process of our name. So we can go ahead and name it whatever we'd like. So, and like I said, this is kind of the discovery process to kind of figure out if we want to go ahead and make that change, and then there will be another process to figure out what we would like that change to be.
This is Glenn, and Bart, you are correct. The reason this neighborhood is called Pinckney is because of the school. It has nothing to do with the neighborhood. I believe years ago when they started the Pinckney Neighborhood Association, they actually had to come up with a name, and that's why it was just called Pinckney Neighborhood Association. When I was a kid and I was born and raised in this neighborhood, it was never called Pinckney Neighborhood, it was just called West Lawrence. And I believe that's the same for my uncle, who's like 70 years old, and they're in their 80s. It was always just called West Lawrence. It was never called Pinckney Neighborhood.
That's good to know. I had no idea. So thank you for that information there.
This is Pat Miller, and I live at 345 Mississippi, and I am in favor of changing the name, at least taking the C out, exploring other names. But I also want to say that, you know, we've lived here for about 21 years. I've been involved in the neighborhood association for quite a bit of that time. And when I originally saw the information about Charles Coatsworth Pinckney, I saw that he signed the Declaration of Independence and was a general. And I didn't look any further. And I think that whatever we do, whatever name we end up with, even if it's the name we have right now or Pinckney without a C, that we really owe it to this neighborhood, which is very, very rich in multicultural history, that we go out of our way to celebrate all of the folks who've lived here, and we make that an ongoing commitment to do that. Changing a name is something you do one time, and, you know, 20 years from now, we'll have forgotten again why it was done. So I think in addition to changing the name, we really need to research the history of all the folks who've lived here, particularly people of color who were disadvantaged at the time, and make sure that we honor that going forward. We can find many ways to do that, but I think that's really, really important.
Thanks, Pat. I'm not sure if we might have lost Bart, but if anybody else would like to share their opinion or any information that they have, please feel free.
This is Ruth Remmers. I live at 501 Mississippi, and I have talked with my husband and I've talked with my daughter, and we're all in favor of changing the name and dropping the C. My husband and I have both responded to the survey.
Great, thank you.
Thanks for that, Ruth and Eleanor. Appreciate it. Thank you, Eleanor. I think I'm gonna be dropping in and out, so if I do, feel free to drive. Would anyone else like to go ahead and comment on the name? All right. Well, if no one else would like to go ahead and comment, like Eleanor said, we have a survey out now as well. I think Pat has sent comment via chat which is a great idea. Please go ahead and let as many people know about the survey that you can. Try to spread it out as far as wide. We tried our best from putting it in emails, and this information has been in the newsletter as well that was sent out to every household, and then on the website. But we're still going to miss people, so we're going to go ahead and try to go ahead and leave this up for as long as we can to try to gather as much information as we can from everyone that we can. So, because we want this to be as comprehensive as possible, as deliberative as possible, so that we don't leave anyone behind, and that we can kind of galvanize towards the same direction to go ahead and make this decision. So go ahead. Go ahead.
I just wanted to note that I placed the Survey Monkey link in the chat. So I know that went out in an e-blast today, but if you have not received that, then feel free to find that survey link in the chat box.
Eleanor, if we know folks who are not clued into tech, is there any way that we could get, like, could you make up a paper form also that we could, I mean, you could send it by PDF or something to us so that we could ask folks who may not use social media or the internet this way to get their response and submit that in person?
I would, unless they don't have a phone, I personally would just encourage them to call me, because that was listed in the newsletter announcement that went out. But I can also put together just a short, one-page thing. But whatever option is easiest for them, I'm happy to have it happen.
And I don't know if Eleanor mentioned, but as far as, wanting to comment on this, this sort of general comment, we're going to keep it over for another week. So, and honestly, if anybody had any comments after that, we would probably accept them. So we basically wanted to go ahead and get to this point so that our next meeting and our next process can be driven towards, okay, like our second process of this. If a lot of people are in favor of this, where do we go from here? So And in that vein, I would remind everybody that we do have that section on the website that you can go ahead and visit, that keeps information about our meetings, what goes on during the meetings, and historical information. I think we will probably try to have another meeting here in November after this meeting. So if you get a chance, or if you know of somebody that would like to attend, please invite them too. Like I said, I want this to be as inclusive as possible. And also, I would like to mention, this is not Pinckney name related, but there is a survey out from the city of Lawrence regarding CDBG funding and neighborhood needs. If you have any chance to go ahead and participate in that survey, please do. They use that as part of their information that they pull to determine the needs of neighborhoods and eventually the allocation to those neighborhoods. And if you are not aware, Pinckney depends pretty heavily on CDBG funding. Unfortunately, we still don't have enough external sources to go ahead and fund a lot of our activities. So we really depend upon it. So if you could go ahead and let them know how much we appreciate the services of our neighborhood coordinator and the ability to go ahead and send out information via newsletter and email, and also putting together our neighborhood events, that would be great. So Eleanor, do you have the link to go ahead and send everybody?
I'm trying to get it to pull up. It's under the Lawrence Listens like set of surveys that the city has put together, but give me just 1 second here. I'm trying to get it to populate for me.
So while Eleanor is searching for that, we're doing, instead of a trunk or treat this year, we're doing a video of the Monster Mash, and we'll start filming that this Sunday, 1 to 3, and then next Saturday, 1 to 3. And so we need people to come by during that period. We're gonna film people in costume doing the Monster Mash, dancing and whatnot, and then we're gonna put it together, and we're challenging other neighborhoods. Whether or not they participate, we're gonna have a lot of fun.
And just to let everybody know, I've put the link to that survey in the chat. That should take you to the whole set of surveys that the city has going, but the one that that we really need to provide input on is the one related to CBDG funding. Or if I messed up the letters, I apologize.
It was pretty close. I think people will get it. But yeah, if you get a chance, and if you get a chance, please participate, and please get everybody else to participate. So like I said, I won't hold you guys. I thank everybody for going ahead and attending. First of all, before I go ahead and close this down, does anybody else have anything else to say? Okay, all right. Most of all, I want to go ahead and thank again the participation of everybody in the Neighborhood Name Committee, all the people I've named before. We really couldn't do this without your guys' help, and you guys made this task very, very amicable, and your help is much appreciated. So, like I said before, if anybody has a chance to go ahead and connect with anybody else in the neighborhood that we might have missed, please let them know about the survey and our efforts to go ahead and find information on how people feel about the neighborhood name. Like I said before, we'll go ahead and be accepting these comments for another week. But depending on how much response we get, After that time, honestly, I don't want to keep us open for much more than a month after this, because we've actually started this process. I think, Eleanor, didn't we start this process in July or August in terms of getting the word out?
Well, we started forming the committee in June, actually. So it's been a good chunk of time that, and then the committee has been meeting since mid-July. So it's been a while that we've been working toward reaching some decision and then trying to figure out what the next steps would be from there.
Right. Yeah, because shortly after we got together, we've spread the word in that term, you know, in August and in September and in October, and then along with the newsletter. So I think about 3 to 4 months is a good enough time that if anybody's going to respond, they're going to respond. So I think we'll probably start discussing next steps at our upcoming meetings here, and you know, involving if that many people are in favor of a change to the name, what should that change be? So, and like I said, that'll be another process, and we'll make sure to include everybody or as many people as we can with that as well. So, like I said, I want to thank you all for participating, and if nobody else has anything, I'm going to let you guys get back to your night. Thank you.
I think I just wanted to, just a second, can I jump in real quick?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to let everybody know that's attending this meeting. We'd love to have you on the committee. This isn't a closed committee by any means. And that, and I didn't know if we wanted to kind of reiterate, especially for people maybe that don't use Facebook, especially, to let people know, will we kind of be posting sort of our status where we are right now on the website, because I think that's probably the most widely able to access for pretty much everyone. And then that way, everybody that's involved in this process also knows that they can always go to the website to kind of figure out where we are in the process of doing this too. That's it. Oh, I'm sorry.
No. That's great. I think, Eleanor, if you don't already have that information up there, could you put that information up there?
I'm not sure what you're asking, on the website or in the chat?
On the website, in terms of a timeline to kind of give people an idea of where we are in terms of what step we're on. Is that what you're alluding to, Jen?
Yeah, that's basically what I was alluding to. Just so we don't have a variety of different places that are. I mean, it's
pieces
I think
of the
it's
story. So
yeah,
there's one place where
yes, yeah. Sort of that, like the for sure go to the website to be able to be up to date on where things are right now. And I know, and Eleanor's doing a great job, and there's a lot on the website. But that was basically just it, is to welcome anybody else to join the committee, and to just say that just to make sure that
always
we
have
all of our information, and that you can always check the website to kind of know where things stand. And that's
yes, because I would say that if you don't scroll down enough, but there is a whole section that outlines what we've done in every single meeting that the subcommittee has had. So that sort of outlines where we are in the process so far, and it will continue to be updated as the meetings continue to happen.
Can I interrupt for a second? How big has the Pinckney district grown? Because I know when I was a kid, Michigan Street was a dirt road and there was nothing west.
So Pinckney, as it is, encompasses pretty much the barriers of Pinckney are from 6th Street all the way to I-70, essentially, and from McDonald Drive to the river. So actually, I talked to Lisa Larson once upon a time, and she actually let me know that Robinson Park, that park that's in between the two bridges, is actually a part of Pinckney. So
When we do mailings, we think that there are 3,000 or maybe a lot more people, residents, and about 1,500 households.
So yeah, it's a pretty big neighborhood. I think it's it's not the biggest, but I think it's one of the top 3 in terms of size in the city of Lawrence. All right.
Has PNA Association had any discussion about the development at Woody's Park?
We have, and we'll probably go ahead and we'll be discussing that as well at our meeting this weekend. That'll be a part of it in terms of the homelessness camp that is will be there. So if you have a chance, go ahead and attend our meeting. You should be able to get a little bit more information on it. So. But yeah, go ahead and tell your friends. It'll be this Saturday. It'll be Zoom again, and it'll be 10 a.m. Okay. Did anybody else have anything? If not, I'll go ahead and let us all get back to our night. And as Jen and Eleanor said, be sure to go ahead and check the website. That way you can keep an eye on where we are in the process. So thank you everybody for showing up, and good night.
Thank you.